We're just hours away from the latest deadline in the rolling debacle that is Donald Trump's self-inflicted trade war. At midnight tonight, Trump's latest round of disastrous global tariffs are set to kick in. And since we've been here before, we know that means Trump is either about to chicken out again or crash the stock market or a combination of the two. And in the lead up to this latest deadline, Trump has insisted that he is not changing his mind this time. But tonight, on the eve of this deadline, Trump released a new order announcing brand new, completely made up tariff rates, probably with the same fake equation that he has used before, for a whole host of different countries. And shocker, these new tariffs make even less sense than before. For instance, he is raising the tariff on Canada from 25% to 35%, while at the same time exempting the vast majority of products that Canada actually exports to the United States. With every new iteration of these tariffs, Trump has injected more uncertainty, more chaos into the global economy and certainly the economy here at home. But today, we got a little sliver of hope that something might soon stop Trump from making this matter any worse. This morning, a federal appeals court heard oral arguments in a pair of lawsuits challenging Trump's authority to unilaterally impose these tariffs. And the judges in that case sounded pretty skeptical about whether Trump really had the power to do all of this on his own. I mean, one judge told Trump's lawyers, quote, "One of the major concerns that I have is that the law Trump cites for this authority doesn't even mention the tariffs anywhere." Another judge said that during these same arguments, quote, "It's just hard for me to see that Congress intended to give the president the wholesale authority to throw out the tariff schedule that Congress has adopted after years of careful work and revised every one of these tariff rates." Yeah. I mean, that skepticism makes sense. After all, Trump's arguments for why he is allowed to impose these tariffs have never made any sense. He claimed that this is all about combating a national emergency, but what that emergency is keeps changing. I mean, one day it's rebalancing trade, the next it's about fentanyl trafficking, the next day it's about stopping the criminal trial of a fellow authoritarian coup plotter. Who knows what it'll be tomorrow? The only consistent theme is that Trump seems to think he can just impose whatever tariffs he wants for whatever reason he feels like on that particular day. That is what this is really about for Trump. He wants to rule like a king, doing whatever he wants, saying whatever he wants. Consequences be damned. But as president, everything you do and say has real consequences. And when you try to rule like a king, you just end up making things worse. That was exactly how the lawyer arguing these tariffs began his arguments today.
Thank you, Chief Judge Moore, and may it please the court. You just heard an argument in responses to Judges Hughes, Stark, and Dyke that our federal courts are powerless, that the president can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, for as long as he wants, so long as he declares an emergency. That is as major a question as it gets, a breathtaking claim to power that no president has asserted in 200 years, and the consequences are staggering.
If that voice sounded familiar, that's because the lawyer who argued against these tariffs in court today was former Solicitor General Neal Katyal. Joining me now is Neal Katyal, one of the best legal minds out there, who just spent the day arguing a case. So I'm so grateful he's still here with us at 9:15. He is a former acting Solicitor General of the United States and is currently representing a coalition of businesses challenging Donald Trump's tariffs. So we just played a part of your opening argument there, which I feel like distilled it really, really well for people to understand. And Trump has now, for years, has now talked about his tariff plan, which is a power of Congress, not the executive. But walk us through the legal argument of your case and what case you made today in court.
Yeah, and I will do so, and it's such a privilege to be with you again, Jen. And what I want to do is, I'm not trying to retry the case in the public media or anything like that, but just give our viewers a sense of what the case is about, what the stakes are, and the like. And, you know, basically, Donald Trump imposed these massive tariffs on Americans, really the largest tax increase since Bill Clinton in 1993. It's going to cost every American family an average of at least $1,300 per year. And he did this on his own say-so, without going to Congress, without a whiff of congressional debate, none of it. And what we argued in court today on behalf of small businesses across America, and supported by entities as diverse as the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and, you know, members of Congress and the like, is that that's not our constitutional system. We fought a revolutionary war in part about the idea that tariffs and taxation are tempting things for kings, and you can't have the executive have those powers. They have to be located in the branch that's closest to the people, which is the Congress of the United States. And so what I said was that this is the first time really in American history that a president has ever said, I've got these sweeping powers to tariff. It's literally never happened before. And if the president really wants those powers, he should do what he did in the first administration, go to Congress and ask for them. He tried it the first time around. Congress said no. But he's got to try, and he's got to do it that way. He can't just do it on his own.
It's not like his own party doesn't control both houses of Congress, but he may want to just be a king. So let me ask you, Neil, because one of the things that we have been talking about a little bit is just the shifting explanations. It makes it really hard for the public to follow and understand, makes it hard for businesses to plan for the uncertainty. But some of this is, you know, he threatened today not to negotiate with Canada if they recognize Palestine. He's been threatening Brazil because of a legal case against an aspiring authoritarian dictator over there. There's a fentanyl. He extended that because of fentanyl. There's different explanations for the quote unquote emergencies. That is something that's hard to understand from a public messaging standpoint and for businesses. But does it play into the legal argument?
100%. And you heard the judges today at the nation's second highest court, the Court of Appeals, basically ask the government lawyer those questions, which is, what in the world is the emergency that's so unexpected and unusual? Once you say it's trade deficits, another time you say it's military readiness, another time it's this, it's that. It reminds me of, you know, those shell games that you see being played on the streets where, you know, people are constantly moving what's under the shell. And that appears to be what's been happening here. And I do think it causes a grave amount of concern. I mean, maybe in the most extreme circumstance, Jen, in which Congress isn't able to act and you have some new sudden emergency that you want to give the president some powers. But boy, trade deficits is the opposite of that. I mean, the president's own executive order says trade deficits have been a persistent feature of the U.S. economy for every year of the last 50 years. And the law that he's invoking to try and impose tariffs, which, as you said to our viewers, and you showed the questions from the judges, the law doesn't even mention tariffs. The one thing it does mention is that the president must identify an unusual and extraordinary threat. And the president basically pled himself out of court today because his own executive order says these trade deficits are the opposite of what's unusual and extraordinary. They're persistent, they're commonplace, they're a routine fact of life in the American economy.
Before I let you go, Neil, I know you've had a long day. What's next here? A lot of people watching, Trump just put out an executive order. It's very confusing, hard to follow. What's next? What can we expect from the courts?
Well, we hope the court does give a resolution really soon because, Jen, these are, you know, yes, it's nice to talk about these abstract legal things, separation of powers, the Constitution, Article 1, you know, and the like. But at the end of the day, this is about you and me and small businesses across America and large businesses who are asking, what are the rules going forward? I mean, we've careened from one day to the next since January 20th when it comes to tariff policy. We need some certainty around this. And so my hope is that the federal courts will resolve this quickly. I suspect, you know, my personal view is this isn't a difficult constitutional or legal question, and that our businesses in America can go forward and understand what the rules are.
Neil Katyal, I always love talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me, taking the time this evening.
Thank you.